Continue with a part 2 of the Bernando Lapallo, covering Bernando Lapallo, the 114-year-old gentleman from Arizona. And the reason why I started watching some of the videos in my Bernando Lapallo playlist that I put together for the video, and it got me thinking, you know, he's very similar to me with his interests and things like that, and it really made me want to cover him more. So you have to understand, there's a lot of bioactive compounds in garlic, okay? These compounds include adenosine, allicin, antibiotics, antioxidants. Okay, so what you have to understand, like, these are all things that are in garlic right here. Read right here. These are what's in garlic. Okay, fructose. Okay, so garlic has been used for thousands of years, both as a food and for medicinal purposes. Garlic can be used as a food preservative to inhibit the growth of pathogens, as a remedy for the treatment of, and prevention of a number of diseases. Purported health benefits of garlic are numerous, including anti-carcinogenic, antibiotic, antihypertensive, and cholesterol-lowering properties, the risk of cardiovascular disease lowering, the effects of hypolipidemic, meaning high blood fats, antithrombotic, meaning it helps to keep you from having blood clots, anti-diabetic, meaning it helps you not get diabetes, and anti-hyperhomocysteemia, meaning it helps drop homocysteine in the blood, and antioxidant and antimicrobial properties. So it's a very powerful thing. It's an immunomodulator, which means it's what's called an adaptogen. It's an anti-asthmatic, which means it helps with asthma, anti-mutagenic, which means it protects against mutation, and has prebiotic activities. Now, before I go further with this video, I want to remind people I'm not a doctor, I'm not a DO, I'm not an MD, I'm not a nurse, I'm not an LPN, I'm not an RN, I'm not a nurse practitioner. Okay, so don't take health advice from me. This video is not health advice. This video is a YouTube video. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes. That's all. So the biologically active substances of garlic can be divided into two main groups: sulfur compounds and sulfur-free active substances. The main sulfur compounds are allicin and alanine. Allicin is the most biologically active compound of garlic. Allicin is not present in raw garlic, but it is rapidly produced by the action of alanase or alanine. Alanase is activated by crushing or chopping garlic cloves. So you can't eat a whole clove of garlic. You have to chop it up and let the air hit it. It's a defense mechanism from the garlic. Okay, that's why it puts out that odor and all that once you chop into it. Allicin exhibits hypolipidemic, antiplatelet, and pro-circulatory effects, and includes antibacterial, anti-cancer, and chemopreventative activities. The group of sulfur-free active substances includes flavanols, antibiotics, garlicin, allistatin, adenosine, sapogenins, and saponins. Okay, the biological effects of additional constituents of intact garlic, such as lectins, prostaglandins, adenosine, pectin, vitamins B1, B2, B6, vitamin C and E, biotin, nicotinic acid, glycolipids, fatty acids, phospholipids, and essential amino acids are well known, and the importance of pharmacological activities such as antifungal, antibacterial, anti-tumor, anti-inflammatory, and anti-cholesterolemic properties of certain steroid saponins and sapogenins has recently been recorded. Also, garlic is rich in fructooligosaccharides, which are a type of they're like a sugar that so contribute to the reduction of risk of many diseases. They have functional properties such as improving blood parameters, enhancing resistance against intestinal as well as extraintestinal pathogens, modulating immune responses, and decreasing allergies. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So you might ask, why am I covering these things? In chocolate, more cocoa means more antioxidant capacity. Okay, Chocolate and cocoa powder are derived from beans that contain hefty quantities of natural antioxidants called flavonoids. The researchers found natural cocoa contains the highest capacity of the antioxidant procyanidin. Antioxidants are thought to be effective in helping to prevent cancer, heart disease, and stroke. Researchers found natural cocoa powders contain the highest levels of THC and procyanidins, which were found to be the dominant antioxidants in chocolates. Okay, milk chocolates, which contained the least amount of cocoa solids, had the lowest. Baking chocolates contained fewer procyanins because they contained more fat than natural cocoa. Alkalization used to reduce the acidity, raise the pH of cocoa, such as Dutch chocolates, was found to markedly reduce procyanin. But that's not regular cocoa powder. You have to remember that. Not regular cocoa powder is not Dutched. So yeah, I use just regular cocoa powder. But yeah, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to explain why. Because what it is these are his favorite, these are Bernando's favorite substances. Okay? So this is about olive oil. Okay, the phenolic compounds. Now, one of the things about olive oil is the monounsaturated fat. Monounsaturated fats actually help stimulate sirtuin-1, and I'm going to get into that when I get into sirtuins. But the phenolic compounds, meaning the plant chemicals in olive oil, were found to positively modify genes involved in inflammatory response. A team of researchers, including one from with ARS, reported photo courtesy of whatever. Molecular biology provides clues to health benefits of olive oil. Health-conscious consumers have long known that virgin olive oil is a good choice when it comes to preparing meals and dipping breads. Now a team of researchers, including one with the Agricultural Research Service, or ARS, has found that phenolic compounds in olive oil actually modify genes. So it's modifying your genes that are involved in the inflammatory process. The researchers knew from other studies that consuming high phenolic content virgin olive oil reduces pro-inflammatory, pro-oxidant, and pro-blood clotting biomarkers when compared with consuming low phenolic content olive oil, but they wanted to know whether olive oil's beneficial effects could be the result of gene activity. The study, published recently in Biomed Central, was done by a multi-institute group of researchers. Again, this is why public funding is so important. This basic science is extremely important to, let us know these things. The University of Cordoba, Spain, among the researchers was the ARS computational biologist Lawrence Parnell with the Nutrition and Genomics Laboratory at the Gene Mayer USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University in Boston, Massachusetts. For the study, the researchers fed 20 volunteers who had metabolic syndrome with 2 virgin olive oil-based breakfasts, one at a time after a 6-week washout period. Metabolic syndrome is a prevalent condition often characterized as having a combination of abdominal obesity, high triglycerides, high blood pressure, and poor blood sugar control, all of which increase risk for heart disease and diabetes. One of the experimental breakfasts contained virgin olive oil with high-content phenolic compounds, and the other breakfast contained olive oil with low-content phenolic compounds. 70 parts per million. All volunteers consumed the same low-fat, carbohydrate-rich background diet during both study phases. The researchers tracked the expression of more than 15,000 human genes and blood cells during the after-fed period, and the results indicated that 79 genes are turned down and 19 are turned up by the phenolic content olive oil. Many of those genes have been linked to obesity, high fat levels, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. Importantly, several of the turned down genes are known promoters of inflammation, so those genes may be involved in cooling off inflammation that often accompanies metabolic syndrome. The researchers concluded that the results shed light on the molecular basis for reduced heart disease risk among people living in Mediterranean countries where olive oil is the main source of dietary fats. Recent studies indicate that consuming roughly 1/2 of a teaspoon of cinnamon per day or less leads to dramatic improvements in blood sugar, cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. Intake of cinnamon at these levels is very safe, and there should not be any side effects. So yeah, cinnamon is good for diabetes, just like Bernando said, and you'll see this. Okay. These are benefits of honey. It's not really a great source of antioxidants, despite what people say. I already covered that. However, it does contain micro amounts of these nutrients. But the real thing is the antibacterial and antifungal properties. It assists in healing wounds. And it does have phytonutrients, but not a ton. It helps help for digestive issues. So follow this link if you want. I'm not a big believer in the magical power of honey, although I do use it medicinally and in the wintertime due to the fact that it helps with, with upper respiratory tract infections. So blueberries are an excellent source of essential nutrients such as vitamins C and K and manganese, and a good source of dietary fiber. In addition, blueberries are have an abundance of phytocomponents such as flavonoids, which are responsible for berries' antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activities. Diets high in barley were found to lower total cholesterol levels according to early results from a long-term agricultural research service study at the ARS Diet and Human Performance Laboratories in Beltsville, Maryland. Eating barley-containing foods improved several cardiovascular risk factors. For example, in a study of male participants, researchers found increasing whole grain foods in a healthy diet can reduce high blood pressure. A diet higher in soluble fiber also had the greatest effect on reducing total and low-density lipoprotein. Significant reductions in blood pressure have previously been reported in other high-fiber grain-based diet studies. It is known that soluble fiber found in oats can reduce cholesterol. Since barley contains similar fiber, the researchers decided to examine its impact on a healthy diet. It does have beta-glucan. Okay, so it's So, if eating a diet high in soluble fiber promotes glucose or hormone changes resulting in reduced insulin resistance is a diminished sensitivity in the body tissues to the action of insulin. Scientists have been investigating. So, essentially, eating barley helps reverse insulin resistance. Eating whole grains in general, but eating barley, especially it has beta-glucan in it. You can look that up. But this is a health-promoting food.
Very much.
So this was the video that made me want to do a second part to Bernando Lapallo. There might even be a third or fourth part. I really like this guy. He had very similar interests to me, very similar outlook as me, and I think that it's very interesting what he has to say. So let's move on and let's hear what Bernando has to say.
Good to see you as always. I think it's fair to say, Bernando, that when people find out your age, they're always extremely surprised.
That's true. That's really true.
In which year were you born, Bernando?
August 17th, 1901 in Vitória, Brazil.
1901.
That's right.
That means that you are now 109 years old. On your next birthday, it'll be 110.
17th of August coming up.
Well, I went to your 107th birthday party. I went to your 108th birthday party.
Yes.
And your 109th birthday party.
You sure did. That's
and
true.
I must say, these are big events, folks, because there's a lot of media coverage, of course. So a lot of the local TV stations come along. It's a wildly exciting thing.
4 stations I was on that particular night interviewing me.
Right.
Continuously.
But what excites me even more than your absolute age, Bernando, is, a number of people more nowadays reach a ripe old age, but few reach this age while still being so incredibly alert.
Well,
what's also nice about Bernando is we can actually hear what he has to say. People sought him out. People let him talk. People listen to him. Whereas with the Blue Zones, we don't get to hear what the centenarian said. We get to hear what the scientists said. So here Bernando gets to talk. Bernando gets to speak. We get to hear what an actual centenarian has to say about what he did as a centenarian.
frankly, I think that's starting of the way I was brought up. My father was a doctor and also an herbologist, and he taught me the way to live, how to eat, how to rest, how to take care of my body, from my feet to the top of my head. And the beautiful part about it, that God looked upon me and let me go in the right track. I didn't vary, not one, until today. I still bathe my feet at night, because he used to say they're tied up all day long in socks and shoes. They don't get any air. And first thing you know, he said they start to get dead skin there, and it accumulates. He said, you come home at night while you're studying your lesson, because there was no TV or radio at that time. Put your foot in a tub of water with some Castile soap and let it soak. And when you are finished, the housekeeper will dry them off, and before you go to bed, she will anoint them with olive oil. And today I still do the same thing, and my feet is as soft as the average person's face, a 20-year-old face. And you can see my face, I have no wrinkles nowhere.
It's astounding. I mean, I think that's the first thing girls ask is, what on earth do you do with your skin?
They do that, and I just tell them in speeches that I make, you stop all the sweet stuff that's on TV, with alcohol in it, use plain olive oil.
Right.
Bathe your face when you go to bed at night, and put a hot towel around, open up the pores, and put it. A lot of times people think it's greasy, but it is not greasy. You rub it, it goes right in.
Oh, within 15 minutes,
Yes.
it's completely absorbed.
Well, you see, all through the Bible it mentions anointing with oil. And in my travels going from Greece to Egypt, as I'm going along, I saw men out there with guns, and I said to
Now, what's interesting, notice how he read the Bible and he came to these conclusions. It took me reading the writings of Ellen G. White to notice what a wealth of information the Bible really has on longevity. And it's interesting because it's almost like I had to look on the Bible with fresh eyes. I was somebody, I found out I wasn't opposed to Christianity, I was opposed to fake Christians, more or less. And it took scientists, gerontologists, turning me on to the Seventh-day Adventist diet, which turned me on to looking into Ellen G. White's books, which turned me into looking into Ellen G. White, which turned me into eventually finding Bernando Lapallo by accident, who is not a Seventh-day Adventist as far as I'm aware, but it just came up one day, I forget, I think somebody posted something in one of the longevity groups I was in, and I got into reading about Bernando and looking into Bernando, and it's wonderful that we can actually hear this gentleman speak and hear what he has to say.
what are these people out there with guns for? He says they're guarding the olive trees. I said, olive trees? He said, yes. He said, you read the Bible all the time. You should know how sacred the olive trees are. The olive oil is. I said, no, I read it, but I didn't give it much thought, but now I will. And I really got carried away with what olive oil could do for you, inside and out, what garlic could do for you, what cocoa could do for you, and barley. So I went back to New York, and I went to the 42nd Street Library, and I stayed there all day long.
I've spent many a days at the library doing exactly this.
And out where it was used, and all long before Christ. Everything that I mentioned was 4,000 or 5,000 years before Christ. So if it was good enough then, and we didn't have all these chemicals, and people were living long lives and so on. And my daddy told me that you live a nice, smooth life. He said, eat right, get your rest, you live a long, healthy life.
Again, notice the similarity between his father's recommendations and those of the Seventh-day Adventists and the 8 Laws of Health.
Well, it's turned out to be very true in your case.
Everything he said, I did, and it worked until today.
Wow.
I still get up in the morning and have my walk, come back and have my cinnamon tea, and some whole wheat toast with peanut butter and honey, and my tea, and then I just relax for a while, and I said, well, I think I'll have my morning reading, so I'll go and pick out some book about health and read. I've been doing that for years.
Very similar to my own activities.
When I was sailing, I used to read the Bible a lot. They even called me Rev. Ask Rev, he can tell you about this. And they would all be sick and tired and hungry and vomiting all over themselves for staying up half of the night, drinking whiskey and hanging out with the girls. And I didn't do that. That was not for me.
Which part didn't you do? The drinking whiskey bit or the hanging out with the girls bit?
Well, I didn't do either one.
Right.
I didn't do either one. And if I did, Daddy said, you're a young man, you're naturally going to get into contact with young girls. He said, but everything in moderation, no matter what it is. Moderation. He said, you can have a glass of wine once in a while, but I wouldn't advise you to go to a bar to do it. If you want to have a glass of wine, buy your bottle and have it in your room. And you feel like you want to have a drink, fine. If anybody come in, you want to offer them one, fine. But don't hang out, standing on your feet all day because you've been working all day. So he told me how to live, and I followed it right up till now. I still wash my feet, and I do. Wash my feet and anoint them with olive oil.
Now, folks, you can't spend any time with Bernando without coming to the conclusion that he's a gold mine of information. You can tell he's an avid reader. We both are. We have a passion for reading by the books he's got in the bookcase that surrounds him in his house.
That's right.
I can't deny that it is a real thrill and a pleasure every time I come here to spend time with you, or we might go for lunch together or something, because I always get these pearls of wisdom, and I feel as though I'm the richer for having spent an hour or two with you every time we meet.
Well, it's wonderful. I enjoy you because you have traveled a lot, and we have a lot in common. Like you've been to Greece, I've been to Greece. You've been to Egypt and into the pyramids, and I've been there. So our conversation and hanging out together is beautiful. Really,
Well,
I enjoy it.
On that note, it's true, we've both been to Egypt. About 2 months ago, I think it was, we were discussing things, and what came up was our desire for travel, and you said you still wanted to go back to Egypt.
I
And I
would
said,
like to.
then let's do it. So let's go to Egypt together, is what I said. And within a week of that happening, all the unrest broke out in Egypt. Remember, it was the anti-Mubarak protests.
Yes.
And then we were saying, well, we better put the idea of this trip on ice for now because we don't want to go
No.
the way it is now. I think it's settled down a bit. I think it's probably reasonably safe to go. But who else do you know who's reached the age of 109 who still talks about going places?
See, I got it figured this way. It's nice to live, to be old, but when you get old and you're shaking and you can't do anything, you can't shave, you get ready to bathe, somebody's got to bathe it. But I am active. I do everything now that I did when I was 40. It's like drinking pure water out of the rocks, like they do in the Himalayan mountains. And they live to be 110, 120, and looking good.
Right.
Because water, remember, water is 80% of the body.
Right.
And if you don't keep the brain lubricated and your mind lubricated, I even do crossword puzzles continuously to keep my brain in function. If you stop, everything stops.
Right. If you don't use it, you lose it.
That's exactly right.
All right.
Well, that's why I get up in the morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock and walk. I try to walk in the grass because we came from the earth, and I want my feet to be as near to the earth.
Feel it again.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it, and it's good for me. It's the cheapest exercise you can have, and it's the best.
Now, Ellen G. White was a big believer in walking also and considered walking to be the best form of exercise.
One of the best is the walking. Get up in the morning, get the fresh air in your lungs.
And again, Ellen G. White would recommend walking outside to get fresh air and sunshine, which are two others of the laws of health. So you have exercise, fresh air, and sunshine taken care of right there.
I was sailing. I used to get up early, and the guys would say, "What are you doing upstairs? The kitchen wasn't open yet." I would walk up and down on the deck and inhale that nice salt air. And I just used to commune with nature, looking at the clouds, and sometimes even the sun rising. Beautiful. But I've had a wonderful life, and up to this age, I have very few people I bet that you have spoken with that have been to the 5 continents.
Oh, there are very few indeed.
Yeah,
Very few.
and got paid for it.
Right. Right.
And was healthy enough to be healthy. I've never been sick a day in my life.
No, that is inspirational
Yeah,
too.
and I lived in New York City for 90 years.
Well, that's tough to stay healthy in New York City. That
Well,
is.
definitely. That's why I use it, because that's one of the greatest cities in the world.
Right.
And everybody is there. You know, it's an island. East River over here, and East River over here, and Hudson River over here, and this island. That's the Manhattan.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, folks, you get the sense that spending time with Bernando is just invigorating. It's invigorating for the mind. It's just, it's this, we're never stuck for words. Let me put it that way. It's always an interesting conversation.
Yes, we could talk. We could sit here and talk. If I started telling you my life, you would say, "My goodness, God put you here for a purpose."
Well,
Oh, I don't even want to go into it because it's too far. I sailed the seas for years, and I was out there when the U-boats were blowing up the ships.
right.
I missed 5 ships that were blown up.
Just hearing that is
5.
unbelievable.
5 I missed. I was in Asbury Park. I got back too late. I was up this place. I got back too late to sign on. All right, you can sign on tomorrow. Blah blah blah. That's what I would do.
And each of those 5 was gone. Well, then it's almost a miracle that you're here.
And the one that I told you about on the bus, the bus driver, I'm running to get it because the last bus going to the fort. I had been into town to get something for the boys. And as I ran to get the bus, an old lady got off, and this is in Bristol, and she got off the fire, what do you call them, the alarms, like the airplanes were coming.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of noise. Everybody was running for the to get
Shelter and that.
get in the shelter. And he slammed the door in my face and took off.
Aye.
Well, this old lady got off and she said to me, "Come on, son, this is the last bus to the fort, so you may as well come up and bunk with me." She was an old lady, and I said to myself, "Well, that's better than having to go to a hotel." So I went with her. When I got to the place, it was a little hut, had a bed and a chair, and she said, "Oh God, could I stand a drink now?" So I said, "Maybe I can help you there," because I had gone in town to get a couple of bottles of whiskey for my boys, because the town was, what do you call it, dry. They didn't allow the bars to be open at the time. Anyway, but this is a restaurant to which I knew the maitre d', and I went and I got these 2 bottles of whiskey, and so I said to the old lady, "Well, if you could stand a drink," I said, "maybe I could help." She says, "You have something?" I said, "Yeah, a little bit," and I opened the bottle, and she had the little tumble glasses used to serve by with jelly in them.
Mm-hmm.
But she had a glass like that. So I opened the bottle, and I said, "Tell me when." She let the door almost run over before she said when. And she drank it, and then said, "Oh, God." And then she fell across the bed. I said, "Oh, my God, this woman's going to have a heart attack, and they're going to think that I came and hit her robber." Which I was skeptical of that, you know. So suppose she had a heart attack.
Right. That wouldn't have looked good.
It wouldn't look good at all. But anyway, and she said, "You want to lay across the bed?" It's all right. I said, "No, I'll sit right here in the chair." And so, because I'm accustomed to going to bed early, and this was around 11:30, and I'm sitting up there in the chair, and she's laying across the bed. In 3 minutes, she was snoring, and I'm sitting there. And evidently, I must have dozed off. When I woke up, I heard action in the street. You know, like horses would walk or cars would run up and down. So I got up and walked to the door and looked out, and I saw a fellow with a motorcycle that had a little cart on the side. So I beckoned to him to come to me. And before he got to my room, I had a pocket and put out a $5 bill. He came over. I said, "How much you charge me to run me out to the fort?" So he says, £1. So I said, "Okay." Then I said and I went to thank her for letting me stay for the night. Could I do something for you? I said, "Have you got any food in?" She said, "Not much." I said, "Well, come on." I said, "How much would you charge me to take her out and bring her back?" He said, "Well, I'm coming back anyway." He says, "I take £1 to take her out." I said, "Here's another $5." She had a little sidecar, so she got in the sidecar, and I sat on the back, holding on to him. And we got out there to the port, and as we pulled up in front of the gate, the guys were all hanging out the ship looking. They said, Sue, that's you? I said, of course it's me. My God, I said, they're out there looking for your body. I said, well, out where looking for my body? He said, the last bus came in. A bomb hit it and blew it to bits. His body's all over.
Aye.
I said, I've been telling you all the time, I'm God's child. Nothing going to happen to me.
Wow.
I said, I got your stuff here.
Now notice that that's the importance of trusting in God, not worrying more than you need to, letting go and understanding that there's a limit to what you control, and trusting in God, which is the last of the 8 laws of health.
Yeah. I said, this little lady...
As I said, he was not an Adventist, but look at how similar his lifestyle was to the Seventh-day Adventist lifestyle.
Nice, kind enough to let me stay in her place, and I got the motorcycle, and here you are. I gave him the 2 bottles of whiskey, and he said, man, they're out there looking for your body. I said, let them look. I'm here, helping with you. When we're going back at what was it? Oh, I'm confused with the times. Another time I was in. Oh, I know where it was. This guy took me back, and he put me back right where I was when he picked me up.
Right.
So now I got to walk over to the club. As I started to get over there, the guys, some of the waiters and what was outside, and they saw me. They ran over. Oh my God, you missed that bus, huh? I said, yeah, I'm here. He said, you're a seaman. Because we used to have all our credentials hanging on the side. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, did you hear about that ship that came in and anchored out? They were quarantined. I said, yeah, I know, because I got off it. He said, oh man, the U-boats come in there last night, they blew it to bits. They're out there now digging bodies.
Unbelievable.
Well, I could sit here all day and tell you stories.
I know. We don't have enough. Well, we don't have tape. It's tapeless, but we don't have enough time left on the camera. But I think we should do this more.
All right.
I want to thank you again.